Make sure that you sit comfortably. Close your eyes. And notice. Notice your emotional state, sensations of the body. If thoughts are coming, whatever comes through the senses, just notice. Not waiting for anything, just allowing everything. Allowing the natural unfolding of this moment. And there might be a lot of things happening, lots of thoughts coming, intense sensations of the body, or perhaps very little. But it makes no difference. You are here. And notice how effortless it is to stay here in the observation of your experience. And you don't have to observe as anything. You just observe. You don't have to analyze, but you notice if analyzing is happening. You're stepping out of the identity with all the things that comes and goes. You allow this moment to be fresh. Every moment new. And you notice the relaxation that happens in this. The freedom of not touching your thoughts. The freedom of allowing every moment to unfold as it unfolds. that this deep isness of the moment is just there. And all becoming is forgotten. And if you stay here, all your limitations will be revealed. All your ideas, all your fears, all your opinions. And in the light of this moment, they will show its true nature. You see how the egoic mind tries to feed you thoughts to again believe in something old. But you're just here. Every moment has this deep underlying freedom. However burdened your mind might be, this is always behind it. Like the sun shining behind the clouds. This freedom is always there. This is the freedom of being the witness, of observing, the freedom of showing that you and your thoughts are different. You are the awareness of thoughts, not the content itself. And this can seem as a duality at first. But this have to be explored. The detachment, even though you might have the experience that you feel detached. You feel that you are observing your experience. But through this detachment, you can meet it again. Through this detachment, you can invite the whole. But you have to stay here. Watch. Don't miss a single moment. It's easy for the mind to get involved, to look for an experience, to look for some kind of solution, or being caught in the attachment to a hope. It's something in meditation will save you. But you are not in need of saving. You just have to find out what you are. Find out if the you that you want to save really exists. The truth that you're looking for in meditation is not something that can be caught with words. It's not a thing. It's not a sentence. It's not a book or philosophy. It is the experience of this moment. And the full acceptance of it. The most important is not to remember these words or even to think about them, but to look what they're pointing towards. That is not some aspect that is coming from me as an external source that is pointing to what is the same in you. How we are the same. And this beingness is the same in everyone. And if you understand that you are this, you will also see that in others. They can be taken by their thoughts, they can be emotional, irrational. But you will see them. You will notice them beyond all that, because you will know that they are the same. Many things we do bring us to enjoying this moment. But sometimes there is confusion about it because you think that it is something outer that brings this acceptance of the now. But the more you look, then you notice that you are that. There are no external things. There is nothing to obtain. But with that said, don't override yourself. Allow yourself to also long to be united, longing for freedom. There's nothing wrong with that. You can open your eyes slowly, move your body if you need to. I just noticed that was very dark on the stream. Mm. Mm. There's so many ways to talk about the, the spiritual search, or whatever you want to call it. And this that could seem to be irrational longing or truth, or God, whatever you want to call it. And all the events that slowly push you in that direction. Sometimes strangely, sometimes obvious, sometimes in the opposite way that you thought. I saw a documentary about two brothers who went to a Buddhist monastery in Japan. One of the brothers had his whole life been a feeling that Buddhism is his way. And he really wanted to go someday to a monastery and stay there, meditate and live there for a couple of months and just see how that kind of life would be. His brother had nothing better to do, so he said, yeah, okay, I can tag along, see if I enjoy it. He had never been interested in Buddhism. And when they came to the monastery, the brother who had spent his whole life, he was so tense. He was with so much expectations. So meditation for him was terrible. All the tasks was such a large effort. Everything felt heavy. And for the other brother who didn't care, everything was wonderful. He just enjoyed the meditation so much. And the work, the cleaning that the monks had to do and everything. It came so easy for him. So when we prepare sometimes, we just make ourselves tense. We think that the moments are so important. And it's so easy, especially if you dedicate your life to practice, that you become very serious. I'm doing the most important thing that a human being can do. Da, da, da. But this heaviness is not beneficial. And it's such a burden. I've seen it many times with people dedicated to the spiritual path when they haven't taken these big decisions to really go for it.
I've noticed too that in that there's a lot of judgment on what is appropriate and what is not. And like for me, I fell through this point where I was trying now just a few weeks ago. And then after that, something like loosened up. And then I could see in my everyday experience how much judgment there was of everything. Like this is not this, and this is this, and this is that, and all of this talk was like there behind it. And I couldn't see it before. But the, like you say, attitude had been there all the time, but I couldn't see it. And now I notice that there is so much judgment about everything. oh, this is not spiritual, or this is spiritual, or this brings me closer to God, or not. And it's just so silly. It's this constant chatter.
And the the level of where that is happening, the closeness to God, is not at all in the relative. The experience just happens. And if you say that this person in my life is very non-spiritual and I don't know if I want to be associated, I like hanging out with that person, but they do things that you think are so unspiritual. But maybe that person is your perfect teacher in some ways. You get challenged with all your ideas of what spirituality is and what is wisdom and how can you live your life. And I think it's very good with diversity to see know different people, different situations, and in different ages and in different life situations. That brings a lot. It's a lot easier to understand people. But that level just happens. How you approach it is the whole thing. Who are you? Where does all this come from? And how it unfolds, just let the universe surprise you. And it will. And if you have a feeling that you have to control everything, try that for a while until you get tired of it. You quickly will. Because life won't play along with your ideas. And you might seem to be in alignment for it for a while. And then you start to believe in the law of attraction. But all those ideas are still coming from the idea of being in control. That you are the one who makes the world happen.
So, do you have anything to say about the so-called law of attraction?
I think it's a nice game. Yes. Because it's completely founded from an idea that you should benefit from the world somehow and to make that more efficient. If you put out the right kind of thoughts and you just adjust yourself a little bit, you can just attract more money, partners, whatever you like. But it might work to a certain extent from the um, idea of the egoic mind. Those things work, of course, if you as many things with personal development, they work very much, but they work on that level. You can change things and you can adjust things a little bit and you have a feeling of control in it, but it's all very personal. If someone would as soon as you identify with it and someone would critique your method, you'd, oh, no, it's not like that. And you have to hold up this facade that the thing that you're doing is really good. But if you really look at yourself, there is no thing to hold up. There is no thing to, as soon as you have to uphold something, then there is some kind of idea that you are separate and that there is someone that needs to uphold. That always comes with that. But also at a certain level, if you're completely invested in the idea of the person, if you see nothing else, then that is important. Then therapy is super important because that is what you believe in. That is it all in the domain of the relative and in the idea of the personal. And as long as you believe that, then those things have the effect on the relative. But to know yourself is not that. But with that said, I don't want to dismiss it because there's also a natural movement in you from being interested in making the person better to starting to be interested in what is this whole thing. Those seem to be very connected, and many people find their way into spirituality through personal development in some way. That is very, very common because they have some things that connect them because you want to understand yourself. So if you're completely identified and you think that that has some benefit, then try it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, when you talked about seriousness, but I just thought like somehow on some level it's also good to be maybe sincere or well some like
That is a very good distinction that you just made.
yeah,
I would say be sincere, but don't be serious.
yeah,
Because there has to be playfulness with it. Otherwise, you will take it too personal. It will be too heavy. Your role will be too heavy. And if you start to have this very strong meditation role that you are a person who is very good and who is only doing things, and then you have to scream one day or there's a lot of anger and you just feel that that's wrong and you suppress that and you come into all of these strange behaviors because you're not allowing the natural pace of things.
sincere seems much more heartful and also like it's not having any interest in like innocent, it doesn't have any interest like if I say to be sincere, it doesn't have an interest in it.
The sincerity can have the interest of understanding oneself and to really look for what is happiness and also not to be afraid of those kind of that kind of feeling that can be very profound and not dismiss that, which is very easy to do in some non-dual contexts. Sometimes it's very dismissive of the longing part of it because you're already one with everything, so they want to jump past that sense. But when the sincerity is to really be with things like that, to be with the longing, because it won't go if you're not completely acceptant of it. And you're watching what it does in your meditation. You notice that you're looking for something to happen, or you're looking for some kind of experience or fireworks or whatever it is that you want something to.
Yeah, so if I'm sincere with the longing, it's I can see it more clearly and just like,
Yes, you have to
this
accept
is-
you have to accept that as well, and also all the uh, all the darkness, like shame and all these things that many people don't want to touch at all. To also just sit with that when it comes and feel, can I allow this to be,
Mm.
and invite everything. And sometimes the mind says, yes, but if you invite this, it will destroy you. Okay, show me, destroy me. Bring it. And you don't have to be like, you don't have to be so nice with the mind always.
Mm.
You can also say, I'm done with this now.
Shut up.
And yes, shut up. I just want to sit here and see what happens. Not always try to like find a very, very soft way of doing it. Try different, because sometimes the mind just goes if you put your foot down. So it very much depends on where you come from. But many people are just so are very nice with their mind always. They listen to everything, they take every instruction as it is truth, and it just can just go on and create these great loops for you of the same behavior, and you might suffer it, build up all this tension, and then you cry, and then you build up the tension, and then you cry to release it, and then it just goes in these circles. And you can, and the dangers are that you can always explain, oh, it's just vasanas coming out, but maybe it's also just the egoic behavior that goes in circles, and that's not really, it's not really releasing anything. It's just the same behavior. But so that's why it usually also takes time to understand, because you get tired of the repetitive patterns and you start to see. And the more you observe, the easier it is to see them. If you come back very consistently to watching your mind, you will notice, oh, it's the same. Now it's the same trip again. I bought something, I don't know when, but now I'm into this thing again, and I have this expectation.
But I find it, the more that I sit and the more I watch, the less I have the ability to navigate in time and space. So the harder it is to remember, oh, this happened.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
really that you have to remember it like that. You
No.
don't have to have a diary of it, or like keep tabs on it. You will just if you notice the same, oh, this is happening again. You will just notice it in the moment, and that you this is and you can also feel the energy of some things, that they are just reoccurring, that they have that they have that sense to them, this old stiff sense
Like
to
recognize it.
yes.
Okay.
So it's more that you recognize those things more than a memory thing. um and when the old stuff comes out, it's almost always in a longer period where your mind is very quiet. And it will be very obvious that that is what is happening. But I think that these things are often confused. That you, it's easy to uh, to be okay with the mind that goes on and on, because you have a nice story why that is happening. So all these things are very good to the question. If there doesn't seem to be any progress, if that, and with progress I just mean that your mind is more spacious. That is the only progress that is going to happen in meditation. It's just that there will be more space. And if the mind is completely full with thoughts and you practice for very consistently and it is still like that, then you have to question what you believe in all of this. And if you're going on the same ride again and again. And these questions are not always so nice, because if you have a nice story for it, then you're protecting something. You're protecting something from that. You don't want it to really be like that. You don't want to be stuck in a loop. Yes. I will try. Because the story doesn't have to be a story. The story can just be, you're just unconscious of the tension that the egoic mind creates, and you come to a point where it's too much usually, and then there has to be some kind of release. And if you are conscious enough of that, maybe you just cry. You get to some space for yourself and you just cry. But the story that usually it's the unconscious part that makes it build up. You won't see what that is. You have no idea where it really starts. That's why it happens. But the story about it, yes, it could be all kind of things that just all kind of sense that you are separate from your experience. Whatever you call it. I'm going through a tough time. All these kind of ideas that pertain to you and your situation, and as soon as you believe in them, can cause this kind of tension. But the story that I mean that is on top of all this is that this is a part of a spiritual process. So you have a narrative on top of this unconscious part that says, yes, this is happening because of vasanas are coming out, or this and this is happening. But that might not really be the case. It's just the egoic mind, and it has to be released and then build up and release and build up and release. So you can be caught in this loop of the egoic mind, but you have a narrative that is a defender of that behavior and says that this is a part of my spiritual journey. I just want to talk about this because I don't think that this is talked about a lot, and I think that it is very common.
I think you mentioned it before. Maybe I just don't get it, but I think you mentioned it before with, like saying that you're doing shadow work or uh, cleaning out or healing or transforming. But really what's happening is just that you have a lot of emotions and a lot of energy pinned up in the body. And so I'm not saying you, but like as in general. So, oh, there's a lot going on. And instead of saying I'm overwhelmed or uh, this just happened, so I'm really sad, or I'm angry because of this, it's just like, no, I'm in a spiritual awakening, or I'm doing shadow work or something like. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
So whatever that narrative, and then it's very easy to come into that, because suddenly you have and you hear about all these things that can happen. We talk about vasanas, we talk about old tendencies coming up to the surface and clearing out the attic or whatever you want to call it, and it can so easily be interpreted in just that is what is happening to me. We love to create these kind of correlations, and they might not be there, but we like that explanation because it makes me seem more spiritual. So I like that explanation more than something what is really, oh, maybe I'm just caught in an egoic loop of emotions and thoughts. That's much harder to digest. But and to come back to the sincerity of things, that is a part of that. To be really sincere with what is going on, to dare to look at things like that. and to dare to question, even though that is not always the nicest way. It can feel harsh and it can feel. But if there is no consciousness of it, if you're not conscious of it, then it's again just a automatic pattern, and it just goes on. And this is how we get stuck. And often we don't know that we're stuck. In some people have some sense of it usually. They have some sense that nothing is happening really, and nothing is moving as it should. There is some stuckness. I think that many people sense that. But when you're aware of it, then you can really look. If this applies to you now in this moment, there is an opening to question that. Okay, maybe what I think is happening to me seem to be reoccurring and seem to be, yes. Because also the unfolding of things have a different energy to it. Then it's very free and it's just happening. Even if there can be heaviness that comes out, there is that sense of non-stuckness in it.
This hasn't much to do with what you said, but I wonder, can it be beneficial to use classic homeopathy, for example? At least in this relative world, it seems that we can get rid of concepts and fears and even get more space inside, peace. So what
Through therapies or through?
through classical homeopathy. Homeopathy.
Yes.
Me and many others, it had helped a lot, and maybe it will get easier to get enlightened. That I do not know. It's a question for you. What do you think?
Yes. I think that if any form of therapy, physical or mental therapy, that has some effect of your body, when you're identified with it, and that therapy has some effect, of course, it will feel like it affects you. But from the standpoint of beingness, then it would make it, yeah, and you will of course feel a little bit more peaceful if your body is more peaceful, if you're identified with the body. But if you're not identified with the body, then it doesn't matter if you, like Nisargadatta, smoke cigarettes, or it doesn't matter. It didn't make him less in any way. It cannot be taken from like that, and also not added. And if it were like certain therapies would be like, yes, this will bring you to automatically to freedom. I smell so much bullshit when I hear those kind of claims, because it is not something relative. So how can it touch what it cannot touch? I don't understand. But and of course you would say, yes, it has effect on me if you consider yourself to be your body. And for the person who is identified with the body, uh, and the more you are identified with your body, the bigger effect, of course, these things have. And the less that you're identified with your body, then you will also notice, okay, this is a much bigger factor because this is prior to the body. Awareness is prior to the body. So that will always be prior. The meaning of it being prior is that everything, the body comes from awareness. Awareness is not placed in the body. So but that is not something that you only should believe in or intellectually know. You should investigate that. Is it really true that awareness is not in the body, but the body is in awareness? Look. And what does that entail? What does that mean? What does that do with what you think that you are in the experience? And the mind and the body are beautiful because many things that are done through them, we do inquiry through them. We can do certain things. We can have a meditation posture that is very good to sit in. We can do things that are beneficial. And also, if the body is tired, you can do some pranayama or some breathing exercises, and you can feel more alert. And of course, all these things are helpful on the relative level, and they also can be the path into spirituality. If you question who is sitting here, who is talking, and you really look, not just make it an intellectual game, but really look.
Thank you. But what is standing in the way for us to see the truth? Isn't it things like concepts and fears?
Yes, but ultimately it is the idea of you. It's not the concept by itself or the fear by itself. It is the one that it points towards. Who is fearful? Who has this concept? That one is more important to look at than the concept or because the usual going about it is I have to get rid of my fear. But you're not looking at the one that fear affects or the believer of fear. You only look at the fear and you want to get rid of it. And it is possible on a certain level to still be identified, of course, and get rid of your fear. So then we think, okay, then that is the solution. But in that identified state, you will always be afraid to lose the one that you think that you are. So you're never really, you can get rid of fears on the surface level, but the big fear, the fear of dying, is still there because you are afraid of losing the idea of yourself. And that fear branches into all other fears. So sometimes I talk about this like a tree, and that the changes that you do are either in the leaves or the branches often. Most people are comfortable in making changes. If you make lifestyle changes or any kind of, yes, external changes or physical, it's all here. And it might make you feel better. Oh, now the sun is out, I have a tan. Feel like I look a bit better now. But whatever, whatever it on the surface level, that has, of course, an effect. But the tan fades, your body changes with age, all these things. And that means also that it comes and goes and you can lose it and you have something. But if the change is in the roots of the tree, and that I mean the what you think that you are and how you view that. And even if that is just at first just a shift of what you focus on. If you start being less interested in the leaves and the branches, you're more interested in the trunk and the roots. You're more interested in what is the source of this experience. What is that really stands in the way of freedom? Then there is sincerity. Then you really start to want to know, because in this first stage of just being interested in the leaves and the branches is just for the idea of I to feel better. This me idea to improve somehow. But when you're interested in the roots, you start to be interested in what is it? What is this experience? Not how can I improve it? Because in how can I improve it, you already have the idea of who you are. That is already done. So there's no opening there. There's no exploration to be made of it. So I would say it's very sincere to start to really look at, okay, to whom does this happen? I answered your question. And I'm so happy that I also got to see my guru. I don't think that he ever addressed anything about personal development with the time that I spent with him, with the 7 months that I spent with him. But in practice, he did. Because he encouraged the ones that had low self-esteem. And he cut down Chitragupta, for example, my dear friend, who could be a bit arrogant sometimes. And it was very it could seem like in a very childish way. He just like critiqued the way that he looked. And they very could seem very crude, but he would never do it to someone who had low self-esteem. He only gave them compliments. So very simple. He's so beautiful in his simplicity. And I didn't understand at first, but after a while I was like, he's just cutting him down a little bit because he's too much.
What did he say to you in that sense?
I think he mainly encouraged me, but I don't know. Not in a very, what do you say, intense manner at all. So I didn't. It was just other people in the ashram were much more. He was much more extreme with them, perhaps because they were more extreme personalities on the spectrum of just low self-esteem or a bit high self-esteem. And he challenged me on the levels where I needed to be challenged. if he noticed that there was something stuck and that I was caught in that, he would say, "Who is stuck?" These simple things. This is not a complicated subject like that. And I think with my guru, it was very obvious. He's a very simple man from a small village in India. He doesn't have any big words or know any big texts. We showed him many texts because people were, he asked us, I think I have to read this text because I get a lot of questions about it. Never seen many of the like famous Vedanta texts. And he answered very simply. Because it's not about that. And it's easy that you listen to teachers that are very well formulated, very have a lot of fancy words, and you think, yes, you have to have that. But those are just people who are good to talk about meditation, so that's why they come to that position. But it's not necessary. And you don't have to be a teacher to enjoy. It's not a career path. It's really not.
But can't it be like that, that many of us have sometimes too high self-esteem and too low self-esteem, more or less at the same time?
Yes,
I see that for myself at least.
yes, because this is very common. But some people just seem to stay on one side of it more because they have strategies for that or not enough strategies for that. But it is true that because if you think that you're great, you can also fall. If you think that you're better than everyone else and the circumstances shows that you're not, then yeah. So it's very easy because that is two sides of the same coin, and how you handle that. If you handle that with a great, very adult inner voice that compensates for things, then you're a well-functioning person. If you're not handling it so well, you're known as you're bipolar. So it's just, but that is the two sides, and that happens in everyone who believes in either of those. If you always think that you're not good enough, there will also be a strive. And the day when you show that you're better than someone, you can go crazy. The person who is very modest all the time, and they feel like they get a little power. So then they get completely out of balance also because they've been craving to feel better so much. So this imbalance, everyone suffers it if you believe in it. And you always get the two sides. And it's difficult for most people to put aside this nice story that they have and just look. But that's in the sincerity. And in that, all those difficult questions will come, like, how much do I want to know myself? Because as you know, if you are sincere in spirituality, you will also meet your fears. So when you touch them, and then when they come close, how tough are you then? It's very easy to say then, oh, it's maybe a bit too much. I want to know, but I don't really want to lose myself in this, or all these. You start to feel like the whole fabric of your reality is starting to dissolve. And there can be a lot of fear. And even if you give into it, the longing is still there. It will come back. You will feel a bit reserved for a while, and then you again, okay, I want to know. And the universe will say, okay, how far? How much do you want to know?
Other directions. Even if you go in other directions, that realization will show up.
Even if you give up on spirituality, you might project your idea of your happiness on something else. And then you will do that until that shows that that doesn't bring happiness either. And then
You realize the
Yeah.
only way is to.
it sounds so harsh, and it
Yes.
sounds very much like, yes, this is the only way you can practice things. But it's not really like that. There are many ways, as many ways forward as there are people. But if you don't go directly to it, you will always go around about. You will.
But I feel like there has been this intuitive, almost like a conversation, not like, oh, these are my terms, but more like, because to me it's happened so many times very dramatically. And I had like this epiphany when I was when the external was very dramatic. I was like, okay, this insight where it's like, but it's not dramatic. It has to be so undramatic. And it made me laugh. Like that realization itself is not really dramatic. The drama is just the drama. And then it was almost like this agreement with myself or with the universe that, okay, but I have to see past the drama, not the experience of an awakening or experience of not awakening, or being this or being that, but just there was this deep agreement, I guess,
Yes.
with life.
Yes, and that is much more how the search for spirituality unfolds, because the idea in the mind can be there will come a spiritual experience and something will happen in that, like another thing. But usually it is just staying with what is and seeing that really, like all the craziness or all the drama, and it can seem like there was a character inside who is, oh, it's so much going on right now, and you just look at that one, and that feels like an actor on a stage that you can watch. Yes, it seems that there is a lot of going on, but there's a lot of acting going on. And also that the egoic mind can become very dramatic. Oh, it's not worth living this life anymore if I don't get this and this. The ego can be really like that. It loves those big gestures, and now something is really happening and all this.
Like a measure point in a linear timeline.
Yes, like there are clear points where something, and 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 when you look and what is happening, what is really going on, is not you formulate it to make a story, to make a point, so that it can be understood, if you want to talk about something, some shift that changed. But how it was experienced is usually very random, and not not there's not a big build up to it. It can just and it just fell. The egoic mind just fell for a while. And maybe you get the idea, oh, I have to do the same circumstances again, and then of course that doesn't work because it's not why it fell. And all these things to be caught in with that. There has to be a clear distinction between stories and the experience. And that even if we talk about freedom here, what it points to, what we are pointing towards, is something that has to be experienced. That's what I mean when I say it has to come through you. Because if the idea is that it is something external, that it is my words that are doing something. Oh, I feel so great when I come in this space and you talk about these things because then I connect to it. But that is not me connecting you to it. It is happening in you. And these circumstances can seem very good. They're very nice. They're like support wheels. But what is happening in you and how that is manifested, and if that comes many times, you will associate it with this room and with this space. But the nice thing is when it happens outside of that, when you start to notice that, oh, maybe I need it to be a bit quiet and I have some space, or be in the forest, or wherever you feel very comfortable, and you just notice, oh, it just comes. And then you start to notice when I walk, I don't have to do anything particular, it just comes. And then you just notice it is here always. I cannot get rid of it. And it will seem for a while that you're searching for it, that you're really looking for it. And then it will seem, after a while, it will seem like it just comes. If you invite it or not. But in the beginning, it feels like you have to invite. There is some effort in that. There's a sense of effort, because that effort is breaking the old patterns of the egoic mind. But in the beginning, it feels like I don't really know what it's doing, that it comes, that the meditative feeling comes and that it goes. I don't really know but it seems to come more than when I sit by myself, do nothing. Then it seems like there is a possibility for it to come. And then you associate it with your sitting or with your sadhana. But it has, there are no such requirements. It just comes.
How do you know? Like, yeah, I just think I'm fooling myself over and over again with my life choices. That's a very unspecific question. That's another question yet, but I don't know how to formulate this. Yeah.
But you have a sense of repetitiveness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm seeking something in something, and it's just like, yeah, I'm seeking some kind of complete fulfillment in something.
Yes. But I think that is the search. Yeah. I think that is everyone who feels like they're searching are searching for a sense of completeness. But what they think that is Some people think that it's from a relationship. Some think that is come from if I have enough material stuff. If I, yes, or whatever, you can project that on a lot of things. But if you have a sense that this comes from something spiritual, something inside me.
Oh, no. What do you mean? Sorry.
Yes, I just mean that that is a much more direct approach to it. But the longing itself, as we talked about before today, there's nothing wrong with the longing. I think that that is misunderstood somehow.
I didn't say that the longing was the wrong thing. It's that I kind of connected with that. I have to go somewhere and I have to live in a specific way because I just feel so lost
Yes.
in how I live and what I do and what I should do. Sort of like I feel, I feel so damn lost. But I mean,
Can you hold the mic
yeah,
closer?
yeah, sorry. And I suppose it's nice to, or not nice, but I mean, it's good to see that. And okay, so it is. But then it's like,
Can you be okay with this feeling?
yeah, but then I try to fix it because I feel like I need to something, right? And then that brings up tension.
Yes.
And
Because the idea that you need to be fixed,
yeah,
that something is wrong with you and that you need to be fixed, is very dual.
Yeah.
That just enhances the idea of you being separate, and also the idea that there is something wrong with you.
yeah,
But look at these things,
yeah,
stay with them, and question, to whom is this happening? Because you don't have to be fixed.
no. And I think I all often look for very complicated solutions. Things are so
Yes.
easy. I mean, this is super painful. I mean, not now, but I mean, when I see the patterns and it's,
Yes.
I mean, just overthinking so much and trying to solve things
Yes.
so much is just like, dear God. That's also a strange thing. I was thinking of like if people devote themselves to God and they don't think that they are God, I mean, why would they devote themselves to that? Why would they devote themselves to some or believe in something that they are not? That seems completely, I mean, maybe in some way it makes
But
sense.
do you also understand, because the idea of feeling completeness, I think for many, is like something external is coming and holding me in the hand and saying everything is all right and everything is good. And this is the kind of comfort that many people have from the idea of an external God.
Yeah.
That God is here and God protects me. You know, this kind of talk is very common in many of the religions. Yeah. So and I don't mean that that is necessarily true, because you are the godliness.
Yeah.
But I understand the longing, because it is the same longing for as someone who longs for something external. You also want a partner or a parent who is safe, or a friend who is really there for you. All people long for these kind of connections and these things. If you feel like something is lacking, but the lacking itself is your sense of separation from the experience. It has nothing to do with that something actually is lacking. And in you, there's nothing lacking, and your life will unfold as it unfolds with the talents and the flaws that you have. it will happen as it happens. Yes. And you will try the things that you believe in, the dreams that you have. That if I only find a spiritual context, an ashram, which is a perfect shape and form, and where the sangha is great, I will have found my place and everything will be perfect. Of course it will not.
Yeah, of course it will not.
So, and sometimes it's very difficult with your dreams because they can be so deeply ingrained in you, and it feels like I have nothing else to do but this. So you have to go and look at them until your dream shows to be nothing. But if you have the possibility for that and it feels very sticky, then go do it.
That's
Yeah. It,
it just fucked up my life. And then I'm and then I am there like just like
and it never feels like it completes you. It always feels a bit off and strange because that is not the part that is missing.
I think I'm very invested in this.
Yeah.
So that's why it's painful.
Yes. And of course, this dream and this hope that there is a context for me, there is something that's going to save me, and where I'm just going to feel completely at home. That is just an idea that springs from the egoic mind. So the question is if you can be okay with crushing the dream. What is left? Is there just a little shiver of a person left? What is left? You understand? It's usually very scary. You're so exposed, and okay, all the ideas that I have, what is going to save me, won't. And you might already have a feeling that, yeah, now maybe I'm trying again, and
It's also something nice that nothing can save you, sort of.
yes, it's beautiful actually. It seems very harsh, and to the egoic mind and to the idea of who you are, it seems terrible because it, it crushes your hope. But if you're conscious enough of what is going on and you stay with it, then the crushing can also be allowed to be experienced in this. And when the egoic idea gets crushed, it will say, "Oh, I'm about to die." But all you will experience is opening and freedom. Because that is where you will land always. Behind identity is always that. There's just pure awareness, whatever you want to call it, spaciousness. This is your nature. And you don't have to be fixed.
Thank you.
Yes. And what we're looking for is also love. That is another word for it. We just want to feel loved, right? We want to feel accepted. It's another word for love. And this deep acceptance, it only comes from you. Because if it comes from someone else and it makes you feel good, if that is taken away, then it's disaster. So it's worth looking into. where the source of love is. If it is something external that is lacking, or if you're it.
So maybe on some level, if they devote themselves, for example, to God, they may not know it consciously, but maybe, yeah, they feel like they know that they are that on some level.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think when the words are different, we might think that people are on a completely different thing, and that is just philosophy. But I've talked to many people who consider themselves be part of more organized religions, and that talk about all these things, different terms, and have spiritual experiences and understands this deep stillness within and all these things. So you can have whatever background and investigate into this. But if your if your if your faith says that you have to believe in something very specific, or else, or someone is a gatekeeper of the truth or whatever, if there is any obstacle of you not having a direct relationship with spirit or God, or whatever you want to call it, then you should be a little bit skeptical about that, I think. But and when I hear people say that, oh, this is not through me, my music or my athletic achievements are not through me, everything through Allah, God, or whatever, I think that is beautiful, because that is much more in line with what is than many people think. They understand that there is a creative force that runs through everything and makes everything come, stay for a while, and go. And the grace of that is expressed through your life, and it's much more. It's so easy to feel gratitude if you are given everything. If you have taken everything and you have made everything, then you become very arrogant. Yes, I made this business empire. I did this. I built this, and there's a lot of dismissal and a lot of arrogance in that. But if you understand that, yes, because my parents were in the way that they were, and all the talents that I was given and everything, that is why this happened. Then there is a softness to it, and you understand that there is not so much difference between different people. People are less fortunate, just had different a different environment and different premises to make their life. And if you start to see that in spirit we're all the same and this is what we have been given, then you feel also connection with people. You don't dismiss them. You're not afraid of their, if someone else is failing, you're not afraid of that. You understand that it's also part of life, and that is supposed to happen. You just feel love for them. Any more questions? Just checking. Let's sing. Which one, Sanna? Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Thank you. Thank you.